Hey, this is Rockin Retirement, and it's a mailbag edition today where we're answering some listener questions, and I've got 3 good ones for you today, Janine. If you want to submit a question, feel free to drop a comment if you're watching on YouTube, or you can always do so online at theuswealthadvisors.com, and we can feature it on a future episode. Beth has our first question, and Beth's wondering about Social Security, and she says that she started taking it as soon as she turned 62, which was 2 years ago, so now she's 64, and she says, was that a mistake? Should I have waited?
Well, it depends, and that's only a piece of your story. Are you married? Does your husband, is he taking his Social Security? And are you still working? So there are a lot of components that go into this decision, and just making that one unilateral decision may not have been the best because you've locked in your Social Security benefit at about a 25% discount of what it should be at full benefit, and it's permanent. And if you decided you were going to take the spousal benefit from your, if you're married and your spouse has a higher Social Security benefit, when you open up your spousal record, it's going to be at a discount. So
discounts all around in the wrong way.
Discounts exactly in the wrong way. So it's really important to know what your options actually are. And is there a do-over? Can you, put the money back and start over with a recalculation? Sometimes you can do that. So it's a pain, but it's really much better to take a look at everything else that's going on in your world before you just make that decision to take early Social Security.
Thanks for the question, Beth. It actually is interesting because that was identified as one of Janine's top 5 biggest retirement planning mistakes, was taking Social Security too early. But actually, the simplicity of the question does shine on the other side of that equation, that yes, it's often one of the biggest mistakes, but it's not necessarily. But we'd have to look at your full picture to really understand that. So
that's right.
Don't necessarily panic right out of the gate, but just be aware that that's a common one. So good question. All right, how about a question from Wendy? Wendy says, my mom and dad both needed nursing home care in their later years, so I'm really worried about needing it myself. I'm 63, and long-term care insurance seems really expensive at this age, but should I go ahead and get it for my peace of mind, if nothing else?
That's a great question, and I think we're going to try to do a whole show on long-term care options, et cetera, coming up. But it's becoming much more of a concern for the baby boomer generation, because when you look at the statistics, 75% of those over 65 are going to need some type of long-term care at some point in time. So depending on the type of care your parents had, you might be able to circumvent a lot of that by keeping in shape, keeping healthy, keeping, mentally aware, et cetera. There are many more long-term care options as well. So it's not just a simple long-term care policy, which is much like property and casualty. You hope you never use it, but you're going to pay, every month or every year till you don't need it anymore. There are some other options that different products that have long-term care riders on them, which are worth considering depending on your situation. So, we don't want to make unilateral decisions, but because it's good to know all the other factors about what's going on in your life to be able to make that decision. But it's a definite concern, and it should be considered in retirement planning for everyone over 60.
Okay, very good. Great question, Wendy. Thanks for sending that one in to us as well. Last question here comes to us from Jimmy. Jimmy says, I don't like my 401k investment options, but my company says I'm not eligible to roll the money to an outside account. But I hear people talking all the time, including on your program, about rolling over your 401k to an IRA. So how does this work?
So it depends on the third-party administrator or how the plan is written. If you are 59 and a half, usually sometimes at 62, you can do what's called an in-service withdrawal, and you can take the money from the 401k and put in an IRA. Any move from a qualified plan like a 401k, 403b, to an IRA, individual retirement account, is a custodian to custodian move to begin with, so there's no tax on that. So you should know that, because a lot of people are confused by that. But, why don't you like the investment choices? Not every 401k has great investment choices. I understand that. Can you work around it? If you're stuck in that plan, we try to work around it. But if you can move it, then we look for ways to move it. But typically it is dependent on the plan itself and whether they will allow it, and then age. There are options. If you're with a larger company that has what's called a self-directed brokerage account sleeve in your 401k or 403b, we can manage it. So that's something to look at. Does it make sense? But first and foremost is, why don't you like the funds? Tell me more about that.
Nice action plan there. Yeah, dig into that first and then see what the options are. Nice to know that at least depending on the plan, there are a couple of other scenarios or directions somebody could head in. So that's great. Good question, Jimmy, and thanks to Beth and Wendy for their questions as well. Well, hope you've enjoyed our first edition of Rockin' Retirement, Busier Than Ever and On a Mission, the new show name. Been around for a while, Janine, doing podcasts in the space, but a little break, and we're back with that new feel and that new look. And so Rockin' Retirement, we'd explain what that means to everybody, but since this is our first episode, just give us a little idea of if somebody's heard something today that they want to take action on, they want to talk to you a little bit further about maybe questions they had about the Social Security element, or maybe one of those mistakes that we talked about in the middle of the podcast resonated with somebody. What's the best way for them to interact with you and do some proper planning?
So they can get a hold of the office. They can just give us a call. They can also schedule some time through the website. It's Theus, wealthadvisors.com. And you can set up a 30-minute call that's just a familiarization. There's no obligation. It's just a chance to have a conversation about your situation, which I think is really important. I had a gentleman get in touch with us, and he'd already talked to 10 different advisors. And I'm like, well, what are you looking for? Are you looking for somebody who's going to give you the answer you want? Or what do you, but he had already retired.
I bet he wasn't expecting to hear you say that.
No. And I told him, I go back to the people that you talked with, because he was very adamant about certain things. I go, I don't have all the answers. Nobody does. And what are you trying to accomplish? Because I'm more of a holistic advisor. I want to see everything. And I'm also the tough love advisor, because I'm going to tell you the truth. And sometimes I don't have to say a thing. I just have to take all your information, put it on the screen, and we go through it. And then you're looking at the numbers themselves and going, oh, I can't do that sometimes. So, so anybody who wants to, have a conversation, the talking is free for the most part. Now, we don't do any planning in that meeting. We're just having a conversation, me getting to know you and your situation. So, but I think that's really important, because we have today it's so busy. Everybody's busy, or everybody now there's AI. You could just ask AI for your.
We don't recommend that. That's not a great idea.
No, I don't recommend that.
Please don't.
Because just remember, it's Skynet. No, just kidding.
I've seen AI spit out some pretty questionable results on some things, so I definitely wouldn't trust my life savings with it yet. So please.
Yeah, it's getting pretty interesting. But you can go to the website. You can call the office, 443-718-6311, and just, get on our schedule for a call.
Perfect. Very good. Well, thanks, Janine. We appreciate it. We'll look forward to another full podcast episode next month with you. Don't forget, folks, that you can also subscribe to the YouTube channel and get bite-sized pieces of information and education about the financial world and landscape as well. That's all at Theus Wealth Advisors, or just look for Rockin' Retirement on YouTube. Again, links in the description, in the show notes, all that good stuff. You know the drill. Thanks, Janine. We'll talk to you again next month.
Great. Thanks much. Take care.